Hi weaving friends, I'm just making a really short video today just to chat a little bit about workflow when you're using more than one heddle. I do have my loom currently set up for 3 heddles, so you can see here heddle 1, heddle 2 and heddle 3. Now what I'm working on here at the moment is my herringbone scarf, and this is from my new class, Herringbone on a Rigid Heddle Loom. This is a really cool class because I actually give you 3 different setup options for your rigid heddle loom in this class. I've never done this before in any class, but every time I make a rigid heddle class that involves more than one heddle or a pickup stick or a heddle rod or whatever it is, whenever I'm bringing extra shafts in for patterning, I always have people ask me, can I do this in another way? Can I set it up in a different way? The answer is usually yes, but I haven't shown that in a particular class. So for this class, I've gotten ahead of you all a little bit, I hope, by providing 3 different setup options. Method 1 is 2 heddles with a heddle rod and a pickup stick. Method 2 is 1 heddle with 2 heddle rods and a pickup stick. And method 3 is 3 heddles. So while I'm working on this, I was thinking about how I set up the loom for the 3 heddles because I will often get asked about this too. How do I make decisions on how I'm going to set up for any given pattern? Well, first of all, it depends on the pattern itself. So whether it's a 3 shaft draft or 4 shaft draft. I haven't done more than a 4 shaft draft on my rigid heddle. I may do that at some stage just as a personal challenge, but I do have other looms that have multiple shafts. So if I want to do more than 4 shafts, I just revert to those looms naturally. So most often it's a 4 shaft draft, as this herringbone is. And so when I'm planning for a project like this, there is a lot to think about. I want to think about how I'm going to achieve those 4 shafts. But it's not just that, it's about what's going to be comfortable to weave as well and what heddle combinations are going to work. Now I do have a class, it's called 3 Heddle Adventures. It is specifically about setting up your loom for 3 heddles. And I'm also working on an ebook currently, which I haven't been able to devote all that much time to recently, but it's going to be all about using your rigid heddle loom for 3 and 4 shaft drafts and the different ways that you can set up, the different rules you need to follow, the rules that can be bent, and just the things that I have learned along the way from doing this. So you can look out in the future for that one, but it may not be out for a little while. The herringbone class, however, that should be out now. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my setup here and why I made the certain decisions that I did. One of the first things I want to point out is when I'm using more than one heddle for a 3 or 4 shaft draft, I do like to have a workflow that works for both my brain and for my body. I'll explain what I mean. So the brain component comes in where, using this draft as an example, I need to achieve 4 shafts. What I've done to set up this particular pattern with my 3 heddles is I've made this heddle shaft 1, this heddle shaft 2, and this heddle is both shaft 3 and 4. So already I have a flow that works for my brain that I don't have to think, say for example if I put shaft 2 at the front, shaft 1 here, and 3 and 4 here, whatever it is, I'm going to have to think a little bit more about, okay, I need shafts 1 and 2 at the moment, which ones are they? Or I need shafts 2 and 3, and how am I going to achieve that? I take that extra bit of figuring out of the equation by just ordering them. And if you do this class, you'll see that whichever method I use, whether it's 1 heddle or whether it's 3 heddles, I still use that flow for my brain to make it easier on myself to go, okay, this is shaft 1. It's right at the front, right in front of me. just like it would be on my floor loom or on my table loom. And this is 2 and this is 3 and 4. So I have that order and that flow. So that's the brain component. Now the physical component is that I have to use my hands, my arms, my shoulders, my neck, my back. You know, weaving is quite physical. And even on a rigid heddle loom, although you're not using your feet for treadling, so it's not as physical as, say, a floor loom, you're still using your upper body, and you have to ensure that your lower body is comfortable so that you can complete the amount of weaving that you want to do. But the upper body is really important. So I've also tried to order my heddles and my combinations of shafts in a way that is easiest and makes most sense to my body. Going through the combinations right now, I can show you exactly what I mean. So for this particular weaving draft, the first part of the weaving sequence is I need to engage shafts 1 and 2. Now, if I was doing this on a floor loom, I would just press down on treadle 1, which I would have shafts 1 and 2 tied up to. If I was doing it on a table loom, I would put levers 1 and 2 down, and then they would both be risen, engaged, and ready to weave. But on the rigid heddle loom, I need to engage each shaft one at a time, because it's a 2-shaft loom and I've set it up as a 4-shaft loom. So shafts 1 and 2 would look like this: heddle 1 up, heddle 2 up, because those are my shafts 1 and 2. I'm not going to explain in this video how I make them my shafts 1 and 2, because that would be a whole other lesson. But if you're interested in what I'm doing here, definitely check out this class because it's all spelled out for you. So shafts 1 and 2, I have them at the front of the loom. I put both of them up so I have that flow. They're going up together. Once I've finished with those, I then need to engage shafts 2 and 3. So what I do straight away is get rid of shaft 1, put it back in neutral, but I leave shaft 2 in place. That takes one step out of the equation because I don't then have to re-lift shaft 2. All I need to do is bring up my shaft 3, and then I can weave that, pick those two together, okay? Then I get rid of my shaft 3. The next combination is shafts 3 and 4, and the way that I achieve that on this loom, this comes into all the pre-planning before you even do the setup, is that I put shafts 1 and 2 down. So now my workflow is that I grab shaft 2, put that down, and shaft 1. So you see I've only handled that shaft 2 once. I haven't repositioned it and then put it down. I've just grabbed it once, taken it straight down, and I've got that flow. So then when I'm finished with that, I'm going to do shafts 1 and 4, and the way that I achieve that for this pattern is I put this heddle back in place and I bring this back heddle down. So again, I've set it up so that I have as few steps to achieve the aim as possible. Now, if you want to have a look, if you want to see what this looks like to actually weave it from the beginning, we will have a look at that. Okay, so first shafts 1 and 2. And I'm also using floating selvages, so I'm keeping that in mind. Then I've got 2 and 3. Three and 4. And 1 and 4. And that's my entire weaving sequence that I just repeat over and over. And then for the next step, instead of repositioning those heddles like I just did, if they were still down, all I'd have to do is put heddle 3 back, bring heddle 2 straight up, bring heddle 1 straight up, and then I've got my 1 and 2 again, and I can just keep that flow going. So the weaving steps, they can become very simple as long as you do the planning beforehand, and this is where it's really handy if you haven't done this kind of work before, to be able to do a class and see somebody else do it. Now, of course, I do things in my own way and might not be in ways that you've seen before, but I try to do things as intuitively as possible and with as little fuss as possible. And that's why I wanted to show you this video today, is to get you thinking about your own workflow on your loom and ways that you can minimize the work and the hassle that you do, and therefore minimize, maybe a bit of stress on your brain if you're finding it a little bit difficult, because this kind of weaving can be challenging, and also to minimize that stress on your body by just making it as easy as you can. Okay friends, thanks for joining me today. I hope you got something out of this little tutorial. Don't forget to check out the links below. I will have them there for you. If you don't see them, just click on Show More. Until next time, happy weaving.